Welcome to the Mike Bates Show. This is Mike Bates. Lot to cover today. We'll start with the coronavirus. Many Democrat governors either have lifted or have announced they will soon lift their coronavirus lockdown orders. And as I have said from the very beginning of this pandemic, the lockdowns are ineffective and unconstitutional. But for Democrats, they did achieve their objective. Because the objective wasn't stopping COVID. The objective was stopping Donald Trump. And now that they've achieved that objective, the Democrat governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, the Democrat governor of California, Gavin Newsom, the Democrat governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, and others have all announced an end to their overly restrictive lockdowns that destroyed lives and decimated the economy. They imposed them so people would vote against Trump. But now that Trump is out of office, they see no need to continue their lockdown orders. The question is whether or not the voters will ever hold them accountable for all the harm they did. And if you don't think those lockdowns were harmful, the 11 states with the worst unemployment rates are all states with Democrat governors, including Washington, D.C., which has a Democrat mayor. From the 11th highest unemployment rate to the highest unemployment, those 11 are New Jersey, Illinois, Washington, D.C., Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, New Mexico, Colorado, California, Nevada, and Hawaii. And the only reason Nevada and Hawaii have worse unemployment rates than California is because those two states are so heavily dependent upon tourism and tourism jobs. So really, with that taken into consideration, California has the highest self-induced unemployment rate in the country. And that is absolutely the direct result of the fact that Democrats have ruined the state, and Governor Newsom, whose performance has been so dismal he's potentially facing recall, has kept California unnecessarily locked down. And just in case you're wondering which Republican state ranks 12th, it's Arizona. And Arizona is then followed by the Democrat-governed states of Michigan, Massachusetts, and Louisiana, which means Democrat governors are lording over 14 of the 15 states with the highest unemployment rates in the country. That is not coincidental. It is a direct result of the malicious policies of those Democrats. In case you're wondering where Florida ranks, we're 25th, right in the middle. But Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has not only not locked down the state, he's prohibited cities and counties from locking themselves down. And do you know where Florida ranks per capita in coronavirus cases and deaths? We're 30th in cases, and we're 26th in deaths. That's per capita, which is the only fair metric. Raw numbers make the more populous states look worse than they are because you would expect a state with a lot of people to have a high raw count, which is why I always use per capita numbers when comparing states' coronavirus situations. And would you like to guess which states are among the states with higher per capita death rates than Florida and have higher unemployment rates than Florida? Yep. They're the economically destructive, lockdown, Democrat-governed jurisdictions of Washington, D.C., Nevada, New Mexico, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Louisiana, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York, in that order. What does that tell you? It tells you that the shutdowns and infringements upon citizens' constitutional rights that so many Democrat tyrants imposed did little or nothing to reduce COVID deaths. But it did a lot to destroy the economy, which did a lot to destroy President Trump, which means they accomplished their goals. Because the goals of those Democrats wasn't to reduce COVID deaths. It was to reduce Trump's chance of being reelected. And of course, it was also used as the excuse to violate so many election laws designed to safeguard the integrity of the vote, and so millions of illegal ballots were cast. And we know the result of those illegal elections, don't we? Yep, and there's nothing we can do about it now. We're stuck with the outcome for the next 4 years. And we're forever stuck with the results of the destructive policies that will be imposed by the people who won. You can't see my fingers making air quotes, but they are. We're forever stuck with the results of the destructive policies that will be imposed by the people who won the 2020 elections. Now, have you heard those numbers anywhere else? Especially those of you listening in Florida. Have you heard how well Florida is doing compared to the rest of the nation? No. We've been force-fed by the propaganda press in both Florida and nationally that Governor DeSantis is a science-denying dunce who has completely bungled the state's coronavirus response. But the facts prove otherwise. The facts prove that despite not caving to the demands of the Democrats and the press, which are conjoined twins, that he locked down Florida, he refused. He respected our rights. He kept the state open for the most part, certainly more open than most other states, and more open than all Democrat states. And here we are, ranked 30th in coronavirus cases, meaning 29 states have a higher per capita case rate than us. And we're 26th in coronavirus deaths. We ranked 25th in per capita cases and 16th in per capita deaths the first week of December, which was the last time I analyzed the numbers. So in a little less than 2 months, we've improved significantly compared to other states. We improved our ranking by 5 states in cases per capita and by 10 states in deaths per capita. Have you heard that before? No, of course not, because the fake news is too busy telling you that Governor DeSantis is an irresponsible ideologue who's killing people instead. But those per capita numbers and ranking are accurate. And our unemployment rate ranks 25th, which is incredible when you consider how many tourism and hospitality jobs we lost. Governor DeSantis has been fantastic. I don't give him an A on a fixed grading scale because he did a few things early on that were improper. But if I'm grading him on a curve, he absolutely gets an A. But the propaganda press is doing their very best to convince you that he deserves an F. Meanwhile, they keep telling us the Democrat governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, is the epitome of perfection. Yet that idiot not only presided over by far the highest death count in America, and that's per capita as well as raw numbers. Remember, raw numbers by themselves mean nothing. New York is the 4th most populous state. They'd be expected to have high raw numbers, which they do. New York has, as of Thursday, and I'll explain in a moment why I'm using Thursday's numbers. As of Thursday, New York had 42,494 COVID deaths. California, the most populous state, had 37,527. Florida, the 3rd most populous state, had 25,673. But per capita, Florida had 119 per 100,000 people. California had 94 per 100,000 people. And New York had a whopping 218 per 100,000 people. That's more than double California's per capita death rate. And it's almost twice Florida's per capita death rate. 83% higher to be exact. But DeSantis is a failure and Cuomo has achieved godlike perfection? That's the narrative. That's what the fake news is telling us. But it's completely untrue. And provably so. Yet the fake news continues to report it that way. Why? Because they know most people will just accept what they say as fact. They'll do no research or verification of their own. Which brings me to why I used numbers from Thursday and not today. I do my own research. I do my own verification. That's how I know the so-called news media is lying. I didn't get those numbers I just cited from the propaganda press. I got the COVID case count and the death count numbers directly from the CDC myself. And I got state populations from the Census Bureau. And I put all those numbers into a spreadsheet, which I then sorted to get the rankings. And I assure you my numbers are accurate, and so is my math. But I still hope you'll look them up yourself and verify it. I know most of you won't because you've got lives to live. You don't have the time or inclination to do that. That's fine. But this is my job. This is what I do. I enjoy doing this kind of research and this kind of radio show. I put at least 30 hours of research into every show I do. And that's why you hear things on this show you don't hear anywhere else. But isn't that kind of the whole point of listening? I mean, if I just regurgitated what everyone else is saying, what's the point of that? Not only would it not be unique, it would also be inaccurate. Because so much of what the so-called news media tells you is fake. And even when it's not fake, it can be deceptive. The fact that their COVID odometers report raw numbers is enough to be deceptive right there. And that's in both state-by-state data and country-by-country data. When you look at their odometer numbers, the U.S. has the most cases and deaths in the world, by far. But we're the third most populous country. Of course we're going to have a high raw death count. But we don't have the highest per capita case rate or the highest per capita death rate. Do you know where the United States ranks per capita versus other countries? We rank 9th. Still high, but not far and above everyone else, as the fake news has been telling you for months. And which 8 countries have higher per capita death rates than the United States? In reverse order, beginning with the 8th highest and finishing with the highest, they're North Macedonia, Liechtenstein, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Italy, Czech Republic, United Kingdom, Slovenia, and Belgium. So Belgium, that peaceful European socialist utopia with free healthcare, and didn't have Donald Trump as its leader, has the highest death rate in the entire world based on population. I'm quite certain you've never heard that before, but I assure you it's true. I don't do fake news. That's the short, well, maybe not so short, but that's the explanation as to why I used Thursday's COVID numbers. It took me about 3 hours Thursday night to do the research for just this first segment of today's show. And I'm confident the data hasn't changed much in the last 2 days. So the bottom line of this segment is that the Democrat governors who deliberately crippled the economy to achieve political results, not to achieve healthcare results, are reopening now that they've achieved their political objective of getting Trump out of the White House. And if you don't see the timing of it all as blatantly obvious as it is, then you are either choosing to remain ignorant, or you are such a partisan yourself that you've convinced yourself that the ends justify the means, no matter how illegal those means may be. No matter how many people are hurt by those means. The actions of the Democrats over the last 11 months have been abominable. Really, it's longer than that, but I'm talking specifically with COVID, the last 11 months. So what's going on with the impeachment of Donald Trump now that he's no longer president? Well, the Democrats are planning to start the trial February 8th. But is that even legal? No, it isn't. But when have the Democrats ever let the law get in the way of their agenda? I'll explain when the Mike Bates Show continues.